Call the Architects Committee to order. Do it? Okay. Motion to approve the minutes, March 29th. Kevin, second. Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mike, you're up.
Okay, like I reported in the previous meeting, occupancy tax collections from 4/26/17 to 4/26/18 are up 1.31%, which is about $3,800. What we collected through that period, $291,452. I apologize, I don't have a handout for you today. I will email it to everybody this afternoon.
I think you covered it pretty well. Anybody any questions, comments? All right, we have a report from Cool Arena.
Better than being a bag man.
Good morning, Jeff Mead from the Cool Insuring Arena. I'm going to report on quarter one for the building. So the first 3 months we hosted 36 total events at our building, which was up a little bit from last year, so that was encouraging. Certainly we have a lot of Adirondack Thunder hockey games in those first 3 months, and all goes well for another 3 or 4 weeks. Other events, the Sunmark Shootout, which is a pretty good high school basketball tournament this year. We almost had 3,000 people there that day. Whenever Joe Girard plays in our building, it certainly is an uptick in attendance. So that was great. The Globetrotters came back. Just about 2,000 people showed up for the Globetrotters on a Monday night, which is good. Section 2 Wrestling, which is always a good event. 2,700 people showed up for the event. Section 2 Basketball, again, Joe Girard didn't play the final game, but over 12,000 people showed up for 6 days of basketball in Glens Falls, which is always great. Then the Federation Basketball Tournament was up a little bit this year. Just about 3,000 people attended, and that's always a good weekend. Upcoming in a recent event, we hosted the Garden Brothers Circus last week. 3,000 people showed up for the 2 shows, which is kind of what we've been getting for the last couple of years. It's a pretty good show. Primus and Mastodon come to Glens Falls May 25th. I don't expect to see a lot of you in that room, but it should be a good show. Hopefully 3,000 people. All the graduations start next month, and we've got 5 offers in for concerts and shows for the fall. We're focusing on fall of 18 right now. Certainly, hopefully you all know that the Thunder are in the playoffs. We play tomorrow night if you've got nothing going on. But Thunder hockey, it's been a really good season, certainly separate from the building. But just a few numbers. We're about 25,000 more people have come to games this year than last year. And the real important part is over 22,400 more people have paid for a ticket this year compared to last year. So that's a pretty significant number. Hotel-wise, for Thunder games, the Queensborough Hotel has rented over 750 rooms to opposing teams that come to town. And there's been a few times this season where the queue wasn't available. We put teams in the Holiday Inn, the new one and the one in Lake George. The Federation Basketball and Volleyball, that's about 400 rooms. That's only at the Queensbury. And we know for sure that those 2 tournaments have booked rooms at all over Lake George and Queensbury as well. So it's been a pretty good start to the season, and certainly Thunder hockey's going pretty well this year. So that's my report. I can answer any questions if you all have any.
Jeff, I have a quick question for you. It's idle curiosity. I noticed in the paper that Team X that we're playing, the arena was busy, and we picked up a couple extra games. Financially, what happens there? Do you do anything with the team that doesn't play at home? Are you sharing, or?
We do not. Basically, every team has to put in their building availability prior to the round starting. So Manchester they were limited. They had a monster truck show going on this week, so the ice came out. So they proposed 4 games at Glens Falls and the next 3 in Manchester. We argued that we were the higher seeded team, so we thought at least Game 7 should be in our building. So it was a little bit of back and forth, and eventually the commissioner of the ECHL stepped in, and he bought our argument, and that's why we have 4 games here, 2 in Manchester, and potentially Game 7 back in Glens Falls. So even round 1 was a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
We started on the road, and then we played in Glens Falls, so it worked out well for us round 1. So.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's great.
Liz Mahoney's going to speak for a few moments.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to clarify, I handed out the report. It's actually a report from last quarter, our performance report, and then our request for the next quarter, as we typically do. And I just wanted to clarify a couple things. In preparing these reports, when we're looking at the upcoming quarter, we're not necessarily sure if the event is going to take place or how much actually it will cost us, so we do estimates. In last quarter's ask, we put in a concert to be announced, and we knew who was coming, but we didn't know the date, and we didn't want to give out details. That was the Primus concert. We thought that would be in first quarter. It's actually in second quarter, May 25th. So the ask that we made then, obviously we're not making for again now. I just referenced that. We'll use it in this next quarter, and then we'll give you the detail in quarter three. Also, as far as performance goes for the first quarter, we had asked for money for Harlem Globetrotters and Primus. We have detailed all of the expenses. Since I'm pushing the concert into the next quarter, we detailed, the other things that happened in the arena for first quarter. So Section 2 wrestling, Section 2 basketball, Sun March, shootout, etc. So if you'll see on the first page of the performance report, which I also attach our detailed statements to, we had $179,000 approximately in costs. We only requested $75 for first quarter. We have the circus was for this quarter for $10,000, so we're only asking for $50 for this next quarter. That will go towards reimbursement for last quarter and circus for this quarter. It's a little confusing, but the occupancy tax agreement does allow us to adjust and as we estimate. So I just want to clarify that. If there's any questions on this report, Attorney Kassane, I just wanted to let you know that in the past we have submitted these reports as is. If you have any adjustments or you look through and want additional information, please don't hesitate to contact me. We just, we go with a template, and then we can provide anything that's needed.
Anybody have any questions for either one of them? Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we need a vote for the ask, or do we just...
Resolution on the application?
I can sign it. Oh, that's fine. I wasn't sure what your... We requested 50 for the next quarter. Right.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question. Mr. Chairman, I had a question.
Go ahead.
So, where are we for the first quarter on net revenue compared to last year? Are we running ahead? I'm trying to figure this out.
I would say first quarter this year compared to last year we're a little bit behind, and that's simply due to more of a timing issue, Doug. We had our big concert last year in February. This year will be in May. So we're doing pretty well for the first quarter of the year for the arena.
And having these additional playoff games obviously is going to be should be a positive, correct? I mean, we're not losing money on those.
No, first round we did make money in the first round of the playoffs, which is great. A lot of that has to do with the league kind of shifted how the playoffs are operated now. In the first three games we had about 10,000 people. I think 11,000 people came for the first round of playoffs, which is great. Obviously, that's a lot of ticket money and food and beverage money, retail money, et cetera, et cetera. Round one was good. We did make money, and we expect to make money in round two. Yep.
Thanks.
Hopefully there's a round three. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no resolution required for the payment unless somebody has any questions. We will process it as per our contract. Okay.
If anybody
Great, thank
doesn't
you.
need their copy, I didn't use a copy myself.
Which one?
Their copy. Thank you.
That's okay.
Okay. Report from the Lake George Regional Chamber and CVB. This one.
Okay, last, April 20th, I emailed to you copies of the last month's activities and the report. I did also provide you, just in front of you here, it looks like this, an overview. So over the last month, we sent out 6 new leads for an attendance of 11,915 new people and 2,791 room nights. Those included requesting rooms for Adirondack Food and Wine Fest, 5th Annual Arts Chicks Weekend, Trilogy Lacrosse, which actually was a third ask once again, so we're now looking at about 900 to 1,000 rooms coming in July 30th to June 30th to July 1st. The annual Free and Accepted Modern Masons annual meeting, and we cited for the Wheel of Fortune Wheelmobile. These were all brand new coming in the last month. We booked 3 new events, totaling 560 new room nights, including overflow housing for the United Church of God's Feast of the Tabernacles, SUNY Faculty Planning Meeting, and the New York State DMO Association's planning event, all which will be taking place this year between June and September of 2018. We unfortunately lost 2 new events for this year, totaling a loss of 735 new room nights and 1,700 new attendees as a result of one of the events, the Long Island Hafner School, going to another location, and Journeyman Wrestling, unfortunately, because Lake George Forum rejected the bid request on multiple occasions. This is actually kind of unfortunate. The Lake George Forum is a really great space with about 31,000 square feet. We found some challenges with this space in particular where we've had to turn away business because they've just not accepted the bids or have said that it's just not going to work for them. So it is unfortunate. Other activities for the month included holding our monthly CBB meeting. It was held on March 22nd at the Holiday Inn. It was attended by 21 people. And the next one will be on May 17th at 9 a.m. at Lanes and Games. We also held a planning meeting for the new event, the Adirondack Christkindl Mart. This will be a brand new Christmas event to take place December 7th through 9th of 2018 down at Festival Commons. Those of you who heard me talk about this on a number of occasions, our next planning meeting will actually be this week on Thursday if you'd like to know more about what's going on with that event. Currently we're in the process of organizing some of the day-to-day events. We're reaching out for some entertainment. We're going out to the community. We'll be doing some sponsorships. So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces for this new event that's going to be homegrown, brand new this year, but we're very excited. We also met with Warren County Tourism to discuss our collaborative efforts, as Joanne mentioned earlier, for branding and also with regards to Adventure Travel Trade Association's Elevate Conference coming in next year. We've been coordinating with the State Association SA trade show coming up in the next month with Six Flags, Fort William Henry, Sagamore, Queensbury, and Courtyard Marriott. And we've also been working to coordinate the GovBuy show with Fort William Henry, which will take place this week, correct? Yes. Other things going on, we are working on preparing internally for our SimpleView CRM technology software, which we'll be working with putting together in the next couple of weeks. We've purchased the DMAI Economic Impact Calculator, have begun to run pilot tests. Gina, I'll let her speak to that, since she just passed out some information on some of the test pilots, that we've run so far. This calculator will enable us to really highlight and take a look at the economic impact of these local events to the region, everything from festivals and conferences to sporting events, and kind of gauge and see how we're doing with regard to some of the events that we invest in with OCTAX, as well as new events that are coming in, and be able for us to look ahead and see as we're sort of figuring out what's going to work for us and what's not, and how things are doing from a historical standpoint. So I'll let Gina just talk about that for a minute.
Can I ask just one question?
Yeah, sure.
The wrestling one, did you try another venue or another?
Yeah, we did. And they also didn't want to go anyplace else. They really wanted the forum. They really wanted to be in the forum. Yeah.
They were drawing people from across the country, so they wanted to brand.
Yeah.
So they came the year before, correct?
Journeyman?
Yes.
That's my
Oh,
knowledge.
okay, all right. So this was their first.
This is a new event that was
bid.
lost. Correct.
Okay, all right.
So.
Okay, so that was an event we never had before, but we lost. the
Correct.
shot
Both
at.
of those were events that we did not have, that we bid on, that we didn't get.
Okay.
Or it was something that we didn't receive because the venue just said they wouldn't.
The bid wasn't high enough for them, or whatever. Now you got down lost business year to date 5. So what other business have we lost?
Off the top of my head, I know we lost Family Travel Association. We lost. I don't have them in front of me. I can certainly get them for you.
They would have been on previous reports, like the 2 months prior.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we've lost 5?
5 so far to date, yes.
Now, which ones, though, had come before that we lost?
None. Those are all brand new.
Those are all potential.
Correct.
New ones
Business that we bid on that, for one reason or another, whether they chose another venue, whether the venue was full, or, but I'd be happy to get you the other ones if you'd like.
Well, but we haven't lost any that we currently
No,
have.
we've not, nothing has,
That
nothing
that
has
would
come
signal a
back.
red flag to me a little bit.
No, nothing that we have bid on in the past. If anything, things have come back. Hemmings has come back, New England Barbershop Quartet has come back, a couple of the sporting events have come back, Rock Maple Racing, which was brand new last year, has come back. So we've got a number actually that have started to kick back up again and are coming back year after year as annuals, which is great, and those were new last year.
But as you know, our goal really is to go after new business.
Sure.
So everything we're bidding on is ultimately new.
Yeah. But we can't, well, we'd like to have you get every single one you bid on, but...
I'd like to get
obviously
everyone too.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables there, so, okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I'm going to let Gina talk a little bit about the economic impact calculator, and then I'll jump back in a minute to talk about some of the other things.
So we've been angling for this subscription software for quite a while. And what you have in front of you shows the economic impact calculation. I just pulled 3 and how we're going to use it moving forward. So when we have booked new pieces of business, we will run that economic impact calculation so everybody understands there's money to be generated, and not just from the overnight rooms, but the food and beverage, transportation, and other ways that business affects our destination. So for instance, the Barbershop Society, which is coming in this coming weekend, so we know that they have a contract for 210 room nights. So we use the numbers that we know that if they don't contract for them, if they don't fill that block, that they're penalized through an attrition clause. So we don't count the people, we count the people who are coming as attendees, but we can't count them in overnight rooms because they're not contracted. So we don't want to make up any numbers, if you will. So when we put their total room block into the calculation, as well as the number of attendees based on their history of attendees, people who pay to see them at their actual events, ultimately this piece of business is worth to us $82,000. And as you'll see on the front page of that Barbershop Society, that $60,000 of it is by the attendees. So they pay out of pocket to come here. They pay their own money to stay overnight in the hotel rooms. They pay their own money for their transportation. So they put gas in their car and all of that while they're here traveling to get here. Their food and beverage that they're spending as attendees is on their own. So if they're coming with, we put it as 1.7 persons per room, based on the fact that they don't all have double rooms. Some of them are single rooms. Some of them might have 4 people in a room. Some people may only have 1 person in a room. And then the calculator actually tells us what they might spend on retail, recreation, and that as an attendee. Whereas the organizer has these other expenses. So the organizer has expenses for lodging for their judges. They have expenses for transportation. They have to cart the judges around, so they rented a vehicle while they're here, or they're paying a personal vehicle to do that. They actually spend food and beverage for their attendees. So that's where that number comes in. And then the space rental. They have space rental both at the headquarter hotel for their groups to practice, as well as at the high school for where their regular performance is. And then other business services to actually host their conference. So just so you understand the attendee and the organizer. Then the second piece of that, and I'm not going to go through everybody's, but I just wanted you to understand this report. The other piece that's important here on this economic impact is the number of jobs that are maintained or sustained because of this piece of business, and this is just one piece of business alone. So that would be 47 jobs. I only really go by the direct spending because people would question the indirect spending. There's so many other tentacles that come with indirect spending. But 47 persons, their jobs are sustained. It could be somebody working at the high school where where they've rented that space, to the hotel where they rented space and or the overnight rooms, and or restaurants, and those that are sustained by the dollars that are spent throughout our destination. And then the other piece is both the federal, state, and local taxes that are generated by this piece of business, and how it also affects property tax, because those that are in the game also pay property tax. And then, so the net ROI. So really, we think of that about the DMO hosting costs. The only expenses that we have had as the DMO is we actually service this piece of business. It's a repeat piece of business, so there's less of a lift from us. So if we were to look at this, if it was the first time that they came here, we had to sell it to them, we had to bid on it, we had to spend a lot more labor time to get that piece of business here. Now it's really been a PR piece. We've really worked with them on the PR, and then we'll help them while they're here this coming weekend. So we only put in minor costs of labor, let's say $500. So you can actually look at that. What's the ROI on that piece of business? So for this, 724%. I will point out, so this is a draft, whereas we've run this and we're waiting for some other numbers from the client, but this is what one of the organizers had given us. So he said that there could be others who wanted to feed into this. So I haven't put it as final, and we won't go to the media with this, but he's already left. But we'll have one for the media, and we'll start doing this with all of the pieces of business that we've booked to help talk about that economic impact throughout our destination, because the average person needs to know how they're touched by all of our business, whether it's the regular vacationer and or the meeting, convention, the sporting piece of business. So we want to stay ahead of that game. The one that you see in here on Rotary, this was a final draft. They were here last weekend. I went and spoke to the group, and I talked to them, thanking them for their business because they were an economic engine in our destination, and we'd really like to have them back. And this particular piece of business, we didn't even have to bid on it. That was scheduled to be at the Gideon Putnam, and thank God they had a flood. So we've been the recipient of several pieces of business. Thank God for that. And of course the Sagamore knocked it out of the park, and that group may be coming back in the future. And lastly, you have in front of you is a draft for that I ran on the Adirondack Wine and Food Festival based on their occupancy tax, the joint occupancy tax submission. Sasha had given me their package. I have it in a draft form because there's some
Gina,
things that she would like to...
Can I interrupt you just for a second? I'm sorry, I have to go.
Okay.
Just a couple of things. Absolutely fascinating. And I'd really like to talk to you more about that. I have several questions. The second thing that I asked Gene to come up and take over for me, and the last thing I want to say is, been around and around with the Warrensburg bike rally. Some people think it's competition for Americade. Some people are of the opinion that they fill a gap that Americade doesn't fill. I'm not sure which of those is true, but I do feel strongly that they've gotten $10,000 of occupancy tax for the bike rally. Truthfully, I think that's sufficient. If you start looking at that rally in relation to other projects we do and how we fund them, it's a lot of money for what we get out of it. So I'll just leave that to you. I know you're going to discuss it while I'm on, but if you vote on it, I'm a no. Thank you, Dean. Thank you. And I apologize, Gina.
Thank you. So moving forward, we will present these economic impact calculations for every new booked piece of business, and then also use this to showcase, and we can run it on anything you'd like us to run it on. Joanne and I, we've talked about we'll be having a joint session on training other staff so that we could run it on the top 8 events and anything else that anybody deems, is it worthy to how we invest in the future. So thanks for that.
So as you can see, the economic impact calculator is going to be a really powerful tool for us to be able to analyze what we have coming into the area in terms of events, and get those metrics and get that data and share it with all of you so that we can see how we're all doing and how these events are doing for us overall as a whole for a region. Jumping back to some of the things that the convention, that the CVB is doing, on the convention services side, Gina mentioned that earlier, we service different events that come in. So what we do, providing support, for example, whether it's housing support, which you're familiar with, booking the rooms, helping to book the rooms. We did some assistance with outreach to some of the various businesses for the ComSoft group coming in September. I've mentioned Trilogy Lacrosse. It's a very large tournament coming in the end of June, early July. So working with them for housing as well as a liaison with Six Flags for 3-day passes and special discount rates in the area. The Law Enforcement Officers Weekend, marketing and event support there. She mentioned the Barbershop Quartet coming in this weekend with marketing and event support, community outreach, reaching out to the businesses, talking about things like dine-arounds, and then some route planning for the Hemmings Concours d'Elegance, which is coming back as a repeat business for this year, and they were just one last year. We also hosted a nice FIA site visit. So these are just some examples of when we talk about convention services and what the CVB does, so that you can understand what runs, what kinds of activities we do in our offices, and it's varied depending on what the event rights holders need, what the meeting planners need. We're there to help provide the best customer service we can to make sure that they have a great experience, that their attendees have a great experience, and that they come back year after year if we can get them in repeat business. In addition, we've also been working very actively on the processes to move forward the ATTA, Adventure Travel Trade Association's Elevate Conference for 2019. We're working with Warren County Tourism as well as moving the processes forward for the CFA Market New York grant. This event's really going to be something that affects adventure tourism, not just in our region, but also statewide. I mean, we are working very closely with our state partners, with I Love New York, with DEC, with New York State Parks and Historic Preservation, to really showcase and highlight not just our region, but also statewide across the area, all the things that have to do with adventure travel. In front of you there is a little bit of information, just because we've talked a lot about this in the last couple of months. And so I kind of wanted to show you just briefly, what it is, why it's important, and what it's going to benefit for us overall as a whole. We do have the Fort William Henry currently booked as the host hotel, and like I said, it's going to be regional. But the question then begs to some of you, what is it going to do for my community? What is it going to do for us as a region? One of the pieces that we produced for the Adventure Travel Trade Association's 2018 conference in Banff, which was about a month or so ago, was this piece here. And you'll see on the inside, we have all of the different towns outlined and highlighted here. We've got Day of Adventure itineraries for those that are coming for our Day of Adventure for next year, which we're in that process. Who we are, and then some story ideas for the media that were there, that we spoke with. We talked about 21 different media, including National Geographic Traveler, let's see, Men's Health was another one, and then Epic Trails was the third. We're very actually hot right now. We're working with them to help bring them here for next year. And then in the back, just some basic information where we are. People want to know where we are. It's important to know that. And then our partners who help fund us for this particular piece. So what we're going to do, what this will do is it'll provide a strong platform for learning, bringing adventure travel businesses and industry experts from all over the world. We're going to highlight the beauty of our region, its cultural, historical, and recreational assets, and we're going to be able to identify new economic opportunities, including the development of packaged itineraries for the international and domestic market. Now that touches upon a lot of what Joanne and Tanya do in their offices. Tanya works in the international side, she works in the group tour business. But to be able to work collaboratively on this project, on this event, is great because it has so many touch points. We'll be highlighting things, for example, in terms of activities like whitewater rafting in Lake Luzerne, craft beverage touring, perhaps in Glens Falls, outlet shopping in Queensbury, boat tours on Lake George, horseback riding in Thurman, mountain biking in Johnsburg, maple tasting in Thurman, or kayaking in Horicon. These are all the different touch points, and there's going to be a lot more. So we also look for the story ideas as well. So in addition to hosting this conference, to developing this package product, to talk about the educational opportunities that will be there, to reach out to the international industry experts, we're also going to have really one of the biggest highlights that I think, one of the biggest benefits for us is PR associated with it. Having travel writers of such high caliber coming in media, you really can't buy that kind of media. Joanne, I'm sure you can well attest too. That stuff's expensive. Advertising's expensive. To be able to host the media and pre and post familiarization tours, we're working with I Love New York and DEC and Warren County Tourism to be able to do that, to bring these folks a day or two ahead, have them stay a day or two later, and really learn about what we have, not just here in our area, but beyond. Through the Adirondack Park, which is 6 million acres, largest park in the U.S. It's amazing. So we've got some great opportunities here. So we have a lot of different initiatives moving forward. We're looking forward to working with all the partners that we have currently on board. But just want to share a little bit with you some of the things of what's going on with ATTA. We're looking to develop some more agreements with Warren County, so we thank you for your support to help us move forward with this project and this great event. So, any questions?
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody from the audience, any questions? All right, I think we'll go on. The last of the agenda is the Warren County Bike Rally. It was denied. I just have one question for the chairman. We discussed a couple weeks ago about adding funding from the leftover money, or more money from last year that we received, 170 or whatever it was. Has any decision been made?
I mean, if the question is that do we have sufficient to fund something like what I heard earlier, I mean, yes.
No other discussion on.
No, I mean, there was some discussion about that there may be some other activities that might come to committee over the course of the year, and that at the moment, I think that it was to roll out with what we have and then deal with those on a case-by-case basis. But I think going into next year, we might want to consider, we used to have an allocation by kinds of activities, and I think that some of us think that might not be a bad thing to have back in that program going forward, but for the time being, I think that I would just deal with what comes on an individual by individual basis, so at least for the time being, and roll out the programs that we have. And I think we know that, for example, that we may be approached sooner rather than later, perhaps on the basketball tournament, for example, so we might want to step out with some partners on that at some point in time, and there may be one or two other things. I've also heard about an additional allocation for the bike rally, is it in Warrensburg? And I mean, I think the decision there, if you were going to make it, would be do you fund the event directly, or do you give the money to the town of Warrensburg in addition to what we're giving them, and then let them appropriate it out of the municipal? I'm not sure I'm good either way, but perhaps the supervisor from Warrensburg has a preferred way of dealing with that, since they already have funding they give to the rally. It would only require an amendment, for example, to what they're presently doing, whereas if we were to launch an entire new funding activity, you know, it might have higher overhead. We'd have to have contracts and lawyers, whatever, so maybe a more expedient way of doing that kind of thing. But I would say at the moment that we're well positioned financially, and we don't want to overdo it. Our treasurer's council member, he had one or two little things that he wanted to do. I think that's major.
Right. Well, just all right. That's not the way I would have handled it or like to handle it, because we should have made a decision on leftover money. You know, more money from last year being appropriated for this year, so we're ready for these kind of things. But that's I'm not the chairman, so I'll let him. Kevin, on the bike.
I mean, yeah.
Because I'm a little different than Dennis. I do agree that Bike Rally should get some money. They got it last year. They do a good job. Some of the numbers, I just reading the contract because I just saw it now. You got to come, you know, give us, like what Gina was talking about, this program we have, which we all listen to. This is a perfect example of what should go into that computer to come out, if we're saying, because his numbers to me don't add up quite, but I think it's still worth. Last year we gave him 5, and Warrensburg
Yeah, I
gave
would
him 10.
suggest, I was going to make the case for $5,000. If you look at he does do, traffic counts up there. If you look at the traffic counts going up by the bike rally or to the bike rally, it's 57,520, and he does accurate counts. He puts a counter out there every year, and rooms, obviously the rooms aren't gathered in Warrensburg, but they're gathered from all over where the America riders found coming up there at no cost to them. They do support it. He's been doing this for 18 years. I think the big issue was just arbitrarily telling him no on something that it feeds off the one that we give the big money for. I would recommend $5,000 to add to help him with his event in the county. I don't know. It seems to be awful complicated if we just give more to Warrensburg to give to him or something like that. I would just do it through the committee, but that's the case I would make for it. It brings a lot of motorcycles into our town, and obviously I don't have the ropes. But when you look at what we give the other event, I know they do have problems with each other, but I think it's less of a problem. He did use a lot of his money last year. I give him $10,000 out of my modest $45,000. I feel like the redheaded stepchild. I get $45,000, so I give almost a quarter of what I get to the bike rally. It doesn't leave me a lot for the other events, including the world's largest garage sale, which gets 50 to 75,000 people into the community every year. And then the events we use for our local events like beautification, the fire company, and those type of things. So I would like to see us give $5,000 directly to the bike rally, however we need to do this. I know there's extra money in Oxy-Tac. I don't want to convolute it and make it more difficult by changing what you give to me. I mean, we had that special fund that we kept a little bit of money in, but the committee can do what they want.
It's going to require a contract either way.
Huh?
I said it's going to require a contract either way.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we give the bike league $5,000. I'll send them. You had a question?
Question on it.
His budget, he's actually got a shortfall of $7,050. So, what do we? He's asking, do we want to go with 7,000?
Those are figures on this paper. I'm just looking at promotion.
Yes, Mr. Levy.
Yeah, a couple of years ago when the committee did sit in to go through recommendations, I pulled together a spreadsheet to score according to what was included in our packet here. And they did not have complete information, but even without the complete information, they did score to receive, according to our guidelines, 1 to 4,000. Americade scored to get up to our maximum of 45,000. We did award them 50,000. So the 5,000 is in line with all of our scoring and past practice.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. Any other questions? I'll add, I think we should give it to them, and I think this Tax committee has to really get together more, and let's get ready for next year to figure out, we got off the beaten path a little bit, so I'm a full believer the money should stay at the county. A lot of money should stay at the county, because that's what it's for, to promote tourism, promote events, things that the CVB board goes through, and the chambers and everything. So, all right, so we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so that's passed. Anything else? Any other questions from the motion? All right.
Sharon, I just wanted to let you know too that we went to the American organization kind of add value to the big event using Glens Falls as a destination, which really hasn't been in the mainstream for 30 years. But we are working with organizations running an event, special event, Take a Bite on the Wednesday of that week. We're also going to be the beginning of a charity ride at the cemetery. So I think you can add value to an event like the American regionally. It's really a no-brainer. So I'm trying to do that, and I know the city wants to be a partner.
Any other question, comment? Motion adjourned? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.